Hi y'all, welcome to the Sugar Scoop. I'm sugar and cake artist Shelby Bauer, and today we have another really fun video of looking at wedding cake fails together. So let's get started. Y'all, this first cake is ridiculous. It looks like a Harry Potter sorting hat. Now, this cake isn't done badly, I don't think. It looks really clean and the colors are really nice. It just got out of hand. It's just way too tall. It's so tall. It doesn't fit in the frame of the photo and it looks too pointy, and obviously it's leaning a little bit, which makes sense with how tall the thing is. I think the baker had a really solid start. They just totally lost control of the situation, kept adding tiers. It started to get wonkier and wonkier and pointier and just ended up not looking probably like what they were hoping. I think if they had cut down on the color, on the number of tiers for each color, then they would have pulled off their vision a little bit more. This cake looks like the sorting hat from Harry Potter wearing his wedding attire. Okay, so for this cake we have a expectations versus reality. So here is the expectation. A beautiful cake, really glittery, very princessy themed, has the castle on it, sugar castle, beautiful cake. And then we have this. This cake is so ugly. We all know what this cake looks like. It looks just like the Cinderella castle at Disney World, doesn't it? It just looks just like it. Now this cake ended up looking really sad. It looks like it's falling over. It looks like it got hot. It doesn't look, it looks like someone who was brand new to baking made this cake. This cake, obviously something went wrong. Somebody didn't know what they were doing. Somebody was sick or didn't show up. In the post about this cake, the bride expresses that she was just super embarrassed by the cake. It didn't even want to take any of it home. That is one sad, wobbly looking castle. Let's move on to our next cake. Okay, this cake is obviously really well iced. It's very straight. There's nothing wrong with that, but it is so ugly. I'm sorry, but it is. I normally don't say that because, you know, it depends on what your taste is, and everybody has different tastes when it comes to cakes and party decorations, but this cake is pretty ugly. It's like they went to the cake decorator and they were like, my theme for my wedding is burgundy, coral, yellow, and eyeballs. Okay, let's look at our next cake. Okay, so this cake looks so dry and crusty. I mean, even if you look past the weird dripping chocolate on the corner of it, that makes no sense. The whole cake looks like it's made out of concrete, like poured concrete or something. I don't really understand why it would look that way. It looks crazy. Like if you zoom in, it looks all cracked and gross and ugh. Poor thing. Obviously it's like an Art Deco cake, Art Nouveau cake. It just needs a little bit of help. It needs a little bit of icing or something happened to it. I'm not sure what. It kind of looks like, okay, this is my guess. I'm guessing that they iced it, then they wrapped it with parchment paper, painted it gold, wrapped it with parchment paper and froze it for like a year. And then they unwrapped it, stacked it all together, and then presented it to the bride and groom. Poor people. It doesn't even look like it tastes good. Okay, let's move on to our next cake. Oh my gosh, I would never put animals, real animals, on a cake. This is so awful. Taxidermy on a cake. I've seen deer antlers on cakes. I mean, I'd rather they be made out of sugar, but I really hope Mr. and Mrs. Squirrel took a bath before they decided to adorn this cake. It's a camo and beer and squirrel themed wedding cake. Let's take a look at our next cake. Well, this cake is obviously just a wreck. It just needs help. It looks like they stacked the cake and then covered it in fondant, which is not how you do things. And the cake shifted around and stuff just didn't work out and the border got messed up. The border looks almost like it's whipped cream. it would have been a better looking cake if it was done in the right order. Their fondant looks pretty smooth on the top tier. It'd be really, really hard to cover a cake this way. To stack the cake, then cover it would be so hard. So, I mean, for the way they did it, they did a pretty decent job actually, because that would be almost impossible. Let's check out the next cake. This cake is so sad. Okay, this cake was actually made by the groom's mother. So we have to give her a break. She's not a professional baker. Most of these are professional bakers. This one isn't. It's still a wedding cake that was presented at the wedding, so it counts as a wedding cake fail. Poor, poor mother of the groom. This is why you just don't let your family do stuff like this, because it's so stressful for them. I mean, imagine it's her son's wedding day and she's having to make the cake. Even if she offered, say she really, really wanted to make the cake for the couple. Just say no. Just don't let them do it, because if it turns out badly, they're going to feel bad. They're going to have negative memories of the wedding day. You don't want that for your family. So just say no and go buy a cake. Poor, poor lady. I mean, everything's wrong about it. It's wonky. It doesn't look like she used cake boards to support it. And it's crushing, and that's why it's kind of crushing down and veering to the left. Poor cake. I read that it did fall over. So, all right, our next cake. Okay, this cake, obviously this cake was made by an engineer. Poor people. This isn't supposed to be that hard. You're supposed to just stick the columns. They don't have a bottom part. They're supposed to just stick into the cake and have the column part, the square part on the top. So I don't know where they got their columns from, if they ended up with columns that had squares at the bottom. But even if they did, all they had to do was to fill in the squares they cut, the little holes they cut, with icing. And it looks like the cake's like blue inside. Really confusing. Really, I don't understand how it's working out. If I was cutting this cake, I'd be nervous about how to take it apart. It looks like the poles go all the way through the whole cake and you would just pull them out. That is not how this is supposed to be done. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please like it and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys again soon.